Welcome back to Responsibly Unhinged. I am back with another guest for you guys. Another lovely comic lady that's been the theme these days. I have Quinn Collins here. Quinn, what is up?
Hello. Not much. Not much is up.
Not much is up.
No.
Everything is down.
Everything is very down, actually.
Coming off Halloween weekend, we're trying to get it back together here.
It was never really together, but it's much more apart.
Yeah,
it's worse somehow.
Going into November strong.
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad. Anxiety is real. We were just talking about that before she came here.
Anxiety is one of those things that I've talked about it before, but in college, I would just commit atrocities. I would be the worst version of myself possible. I would wake up the next day and it'd be like Snow White, or like birds are singing out of my window. Everything's happy. I would just go about my day. And like as an adult drinking, I'll go up to somebody and just be like, have a friendly conversation, or be like, oh, I loved this that you did. But if I was drunk, I'll think about that the next day and I'm like, I bet they hate me. I wish I was dead.
Yeah.
That's what I bet.
What age do you feel like that started happening? Like literally just after college?
I would say 23. I would say like in the my last relationship.
Yeah.
The peak of when I guess I knew that we weren't happy anymore.
Yeah.
And we would go with his friends a lot more. Because like they could only go out on the weekends. And I think it started then because I always felt really embarrassed,
like overthinking,
like around his friends.
That makes sense.
Being myself. So I think it kind of started then. So.
Yeah, I do feel that. I feel like I used to have like 8 a.m. classes in college, and I went out like 5 nights a week, and I would just go to class and be fine. And now I'm like, if I go out drinking till midnight, I have to sleep for 17 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I'm
it's
down.
not good.
I'm down to go.
But yeah, so we're coming off of that, so that's good. I'm trying to commit myself, like a podcast, hold me accountable to No Drink November. I may cheat and start tomorrow. It's November 1st recording this, but I'm also not feeling that great, so maybe I won't. Maybe I will start today. But yeah, I can't do sober October. There's too many fun things in October. I don't care that it rhymes. It just makes
it cool. It rhymes. That's special and cute, but I don't give a fuck.
No.
If I'm dressing like a slut.
Yep.
I'm drinking. I'm doing activities that make my dad cry.
Yep.
And
that's what October's for.
Tequila's one of them.
Yeah, I have so many friends' birthdays in October. It's Halloween. Like people start drinking for football. Like it's just a bad time.
And in Austin, that's when it finally starts feeling.
It's cool enough to like go outside.
Like, it starts feeling like you exist again. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I'm like, I can't do that. November, it's like what, Thanksgiving. My best friend's birthday is November, but it's tomorrow, so it's early enough to.
I think there's like, because some families don't drink for Thanksgiving. My family does, but so I probably will drink then. But I'm not even sure what I'm doing for Thanksgiving.
Oh, sorry, are you going home?
I might. My family's talking about getting a cabin, but I feel like November, December, and then I'm like moving, like figuring out my moving decision. I don't know if I can do both.
Yeah.
And I've started like making like I don't know if I have this thing where if somebody asks me if I want to do a show on a date, I just say yes, obviously.
Yeah.
You bet. And then I forget to put it in my Google Calendar, and I'll be like 2 days before, like, hey, is everybody still down for this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
Big Google Calendar girl. I have to write them all down, or I'd be fucked. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I might. I definitely. If my family's for sure doing a cabin, I'll go home.
Yeah. For sure.
But fucking plane tickets are.
It's bad,
insane.
Especially over the holidays.
And I'm not driving home.
No. Yeah, the drive to Tennessee is rough. So yeah, home for Quinn is she's a Tennessee gal.
Tennessee girl.
Yeah.
Little, severe Knox County girl.
My claimed home. So yeah, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Quinn Collins, comedian here in Austin. Came here from Knoxville area.
From Knoxville, Tennessee. I came here in December of 2021. I started obviously comedy in Knoxville. Moved here after a long-term relationship breakup,
as we all do.
As we all just do. It was one of those where we broke up after almost 5 years, and I was like, you know what? The most logical thing to do is move 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I did that within like a month and a half.
I feel like everyone's Austin villain origin story is that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where it's like I'll show them.
Yep.
By being so out of sight, out of mind forever.
It's so funny because it's like I had Kylie on the podcast. She moved here, similar reason. my roommate Justine, y'all have seen on the podcast. She moved here post-divorce. I guess I was just like, this is just, you get your heart broken and you're like, Austin's weird, maybe I'll try that.
But that's what makes dating in Austin a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, everyone's fucking packing all their baggage here.
Just a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's like the dating apps, I think, well, for me, I started dating my ex at 19, we were together until 24.
Yeah.
So I never had dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
So I downloaded them like a little bit after we broke up, mostly just because I just wanted to see if they're like, I had no intentions of like dating somebody or meeting somebody, as unfortunately people do. But I just wanted to see what they were like. And because I was visiting Austin. So I might as well download a dating app while I'm here. And then that was like the start of just an atrocity of an experience continuing. And then I hate them. But
so you were in a relationship pretty much the whole time you were in
the entire time out. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't really have like a dating versus there versus here comparison.
No, I dated high school.
Yeah.
But I dated one person 19 and said that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Done.
Yep.
And then we broke up and I was not willing. I think I had like sort of a situationship thing that I just don't count.
Right.
Because it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I never dated. That's the only person I've ever dated in Knoxville as an adult.
Yeah, that's so similar, as podcasters already know. But I met the guy I was dating like 6 months into moving to Nashville.
Fuck.
And so I met him and I wasn't really dating beforehand. I think I like hooked up with like 1 or 2 people randomly, but I never went on any dates. And then we met and started dating, and I was with him for 5 years. And so I was single the last year I lived there, like once we broke up, I guess the last 9 months, but I was like recovering from that. And so I had the same thing. I had like 2 little situationships, and the one guy was bringing me on dates. I've talked about that on here, and he was a nice guy, but I was not ready. I shouldn't have been dating that soon, honestly, after that. That was on me. But yeah, I didn't do any of them from the apps either. So I only ever went on 1 Hinge date in Nashville, and it was atrocious. I've talked about it on here multiple times already, but it's the worst Hinge date I've still ever been on. And then I did not get back on an app for over a year. Like I moved here and then waited because I was literally so frightened from that date.
Yeah, but I delete Hinge every like fiscal quarter.
Yeah, quarterly.
Quarterly reset. But yeah, well, my long-term relationship, I really thought that was just the end.
Right.
Like, I really he's an angel among men. Like I have nothing bad to say about him ever. But it was one of those where it's like I've always heard that like most of the time couples, when they break up, they probably should have broken up like 3 months before. We probably should have broken up a year before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was just one of those things where it's like I genuinely think he loved me, but he did not like me. Like, where I think, and maybe it could have been vice versa, but he was at such a different phase of his life, and then I was finding stand-up and really liking it. I think it came out of my shell more than I've ever been. Because in college, like I always just kind of relied on being his girlfriend. Yeah. And what it meant to be his girlfriend, the next step of being his girlfriend. And I found something that like I was just like, damn, I love this. Like, damn. And it was my thing. And then I felt confident being something other than his girlfriend. But I think there was a few moments where I was like, we were clashing a lot, but it was rough because I think that he was like my best friend. Yeah. But we were not in love. Right.
I think it's like hard to realize you can like have some like, or somebody else vice versa can like have love for you and not be like in love with you. That's always like, I think a weird topic.
Because of course you think you did something wrong.
Yeah.
But like sometimes 2 good people just aren't good together anymore. Yeah. And that doesn't mean anybody was wrong or, I think I made wrong decisions in the end because I was like restless and I was like,
no, same.
Fuck. Like, and I didn't know how to communicate that. So
yeah.
But then I think Karma had its little kiss for me ever since I moved to Austin and on every sort of dating situation I've been on thus far.
Before we dive into that, how did you said like you found stand-up towards the end of dating your ex, right? How did you get into stand-up, or like what kind of drove you to do that?
I went out with my sister. Well, I always did like stuff with church, like like in front of like
very nice to you.
And it was like always like the funny things that you could do with it. And I felt a lot of comfort in not being serious. I felt a lot of comfort in like, especially when it came to religion, like the humor of it to like break the ice. And then me and my sister we went out and we went like drinking, and there was an open mic going on. And I remember telling my sister, I said, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, good. And what everybody says when they watch an open mic.
This looks easy.
The magic words of yo. You should see me tear up the room on Thanksgiving. I should do this.
My friends think I'm funny.
My friends think I'm funny, and my boyfriend laughs at my jokes.
Yeah.
But
we all did it.
So I went up there and I did all right, and I liked that it was one of those things where I was constantly thinking.
Yeah.
Like it constantly kept me writing, and like talking and meeting people outside of just my boyfriend and his friends, and like people I met at school. But even at school, I wasn't extreme. I was in a sorority technically, but I really half-assed everything socially in college because I was just so deeply wedged up my boyfriend's ass. So it gave me an opportunity to be like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, who am I?
Like find your own kind of person.
And I just like kept sticking with it, and like Knoxville has such a great comedy scene.
Yeah.
Like, a really awesome, like you've got tiny stage productions that they do. Like almost every show I've ever, I think I've seen or done has been sold out or almost sold out. And it's just like great production, great locations.
Yeah.
People love comedy. So it made me love comedy more. But it was one of those things where I was like, if I want to be passionate about this, if I want to tell myself I can do this, I really need to be in a scene that I can push myself and fall on my face. Yeah. Which I did, quickly. It's overwhelming. You're gonna be 83rd on open mic lists.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's like you were there early.
When you were used to being in a scene that's like smaller, it's like
so small. There was like you were pissed off if 18 people signed up for an open mic. Yeah. And then you were used to like, you didn't have to ask to get booked. It was like they just you show up to all these open mics, they remember your name because it's a small scene. Yeah. So and then I got into like a little mini relationship that kind of locked me away like a little princess in a castle. And so I quit doing comedy for 6 months when I moved here, which was the worst decision I've ever made. But I feel like I've come back from that a little bit, but it's overwhelming, but I knew I needed to be overwhelmed if I was really passionate about it. So when I moved here, it was just day and night. Yeah. But
when you got here too, because you moved here and you were doing it for how long in Knoxville first?
A year and a half.
And then you came here how long ago?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. So you were here before it was like as much of the booming scene it is now. Yeah. But it was, did you, when you were coming down, did you know that it was on the way up? Like had they already announced like the Rogan's Club and stuff like that?
Yeah, Rogan's Club was in a different location at the time.
I remember that.
And Cap City hadn't even opened yet.
Wow, that's crazy.
So it was Creek heavy. Yeah. And then Vulcan, of course, was Mecca. And it was as far as like the big shows go. Yeah. So it's a much different scene. It's saturated in a much different way. Yeah. It was like definitely not as many people were producing at the time. It was definitely like two producer, like the ratio of producer to comedian that just wanted to be comedian was insane. Yeah. So it was now it's like people kind of like realize if you book, not only do you put yourself out there, you get more experience, you get to MC, you will always have stage time. But I feel like there just wasn't as many people producing shows. Well, there wasn't as many clubs. Like Bosco.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now there's like 7 clubs here.
Yeah, that are like constantly like producing new shows and willing to like hear out new shows. So that didn't really exist. It was saturated in this way that it was like, how do I break through? Yeah. Because it's like you can know the right people, but here it is like they're one of the few shows that produce. So like you have all of these, like as saturated as now, like it's like even more funneled into just one person getting all of these DMs about like, hey, how does your booking work? Here's my video, can you put me on? And on top of like people coming in and visiting from out of town, right? On top of them wanting to like get bigger names that are in town themselves, like so it was very overwhelming. And I think I like that got in my head more than I would have liked it to. Yeah. And that's one of my biggest regrets even now, where it's like, of course it's gonna be hard, of course it's gonna be overwhelming and like scary. Yeah. But I moved here by myself. Yeah. Well, with Candace, but as far as comedy goes, like I didn't like really
you didn't have anybody.
So then it was like you have like there's some really good Instagram pages, but it was like a lot of them were email to sign up. So I think I just got so in my head overwhelmed that I, freaked out. Yeah. But
Yeah, I feel that it was similar. I came down here with the intent to start, like I'd taken that stand-up class right before I moved.
Mhm.
And that was and then I was like, I already knew I was moving to Austin. And my goal was to like launch this podcast. And then I kind of wanted to like learn about stand-up to help me with this. Actually, that was my initial plan. But then everybody in my class was like, oh my God, you're going to Austin. That's like the best place you can be doing this. And like the feedback I got from like my instructor and people in my class was like, you should definitely keep doing this. Like you have like something to like work on here. And so I got down here and I planned on doing that. And then as I've talked about on here, kind of similarly, I just put myself into a mental hole with like the relationship I was in.
Yeah.
Not because we were like spending time together, but I was just depressed. But I also was like, had that same overwhelm. Like I was like looking up, I lived down the street from Buzzmill and I like had like would go there, walk there for coffee. And I saw their little like sign up about their open mic. Yeah. But like other than that, I had no idea. I was like, do I just have to like go to random places and hope I see one of these flyers? Like I didn't, I was the same way. I had like no references. Didn't know anyone. And like in hindsight, I'm like, I probably could have like asked in Nashville, like, hey, do any of you guys know people here or like know how to do this? Like, but I was just like,
there's something like so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like
just like
you have to ask. Like
I was like, what do I do? So yeah, so I was like, do people just like know how to do this? And so I kept like waiting. And then I remember in the fall, I kind of started. I found out about the Buzzmill one. I went to an open mic there in the fall. And I went actually the day I recorded this podcast. I used to, as listeners know, we love and miss producer Caleb. That sounds like he died, but I don't make him do this for free anymore. I learned how to work a camera. But my bestie Caleb, he and I recorded the first episode of this, and I was just like on a high about like finally pursuing the things I've been wanting to do. And I was like, hey, do you want to go to this open mic with me tonight and just like check it out? Like I just wanted to go see how the fuck they even work. Yeah. And so he went and we watched. And I was just like, I was sitting there the whole time, I felt like just like foaming at the mouth. Like, I was like, I gotta do this. Put me in coach. I was like, I can go up there right now. Just like you said, I no prep. I got it. Like, it's so easy. Whatever. Yeah, we're stupid when we say that. But I did that, and then I remember I went up, and I told Mimi Meyer this. It was like so full circle. I was like, I always shout her out because I like walked up to her. I saw she was like, hosting it afterward, and I was just like, hey, I just moved here and I'm really interested in doing this. How the fuck does any of this work? Yeah. And she was so nice, not judgmental, wasn't like dismissive at all of like the whole like, oh, more new people. Like she was just like, oh my God, of course. And like she showed me the Austin, Texas page, like, and like told me all about the mics, told me the best ones to try to go to. Yeah. Like super sweet. And then I just got insanely depressed after that. Yeah. More shit happened with the guy and all that stuff. And so I like waited longer, and then I still only like I had that page and stuff, but I don't even think I ever followed it. I think I like wrote it in my notes. Yeah. And then I only still knew about Buzzmill, and I only had confidence there since I was like seen that one. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I did sign up like 2 or 3 times in the fall. Again, having no idea the scale of the scene here, didn't get on, and I was just like, it's not meant to be. And I like filed it away, and then it was like February, and I remember I went to coincidentally I just like ordered Tommy Want Wingy fire from the food truck. I went to just go pick it up one night. I was like, I just want to get high and eat some fucking wings and cry about my life, and I went to go pick it up from the Lucky Duck location, and I walked in, and it was like a Wednesday, and the mic was going on, and I like walked in, and then they had fucked up and not done my order, and so I had to sit and wait 30 minutes, and so I sat and watched the open mic, and I was just like, my brain was like, I'm such a fucking woo ass bitch. I was like, this is a sign. I was supposed to be here. It's not done. I was like forced to sit there for 30 minutes and watch this open mic. And I was like, I got to figure this shit out. So I went home and like signed up for the Buzzmill mic again and it was like the last Tuesday of the month. Like it was the week before. Yeah. And I was just like, I've never gotten on this thing. It's a whole month sign up list. And I just like put it in. I was like, whatever. And then next Monday they were like, you're on Buzzmill. And I was like, what the fuck? So I went and then I loved it. But it was the same thing. It's like, I did that first mic, and it was crazy that it was like 5 minutes for the first time. But I like did that and felt good enough about it that I knew I wanted to do it again. But then I still kind of got in that same like paralysis of like, what do I do? Because I didn't know about any other ones, and I signed up for more days there, but didn't get back on right away. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, what now? But I like went and followed the page, and it was like, I think I waited like 3 weeks or 2 weeks. And then finally I was like, okay, I remember I was following that page, and they posted about Roscoe's opening week, open mic. And I was like, okay, this is right here in East Austin where I live. I'm going to check it out and just try that one. And I did it. And then I loved it. And then I met some of our friends that we know there now. And I was like, okay. And then I went out every day for the next like month, and I just became, you know, one of the people when you first start, you go like to all the shitty mics and you do it all like you have to. But then it was so easy. Like once you realize you can just like ask people and you learn how it works and how the signups work. But it is like overwhelming.
It's finding the right people, and especially when you're new. My biggest qualm with myself and what I would tell somebody else like that's just moving here, starting the scene, is I was giving way too many fucks about the wrong people's opinion. I didn't know these people.
Yeah.
But of course, like, oh, they've been in Austin a certain amount of time, or I've seen them get booked. So like they would tell me one thing, or it's like people would be really gatekeepy.
Yeah.
And it's like whether I'm really good at something or really not good yet, but I'm passionate about it and want to be around people that are passionate about it. I want to see other people succeed and like have that energy around me of people that want to succeed. But there's a lot of people that like they want to be gatekeepy because like they think that your success could diminish theirs.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a lot of people, especially at the time, that were like, honestly, just kind of hateful.
Yeah.
Like just kind of hateful. And like if you don't think you're funny enough, that if new people come in the scene, you won't be seen as funny. You probably shouldn't be doing this. And I let like certain people get in my head a little too much, that I was like, oh, I don't know if I should do this mic, or you know, like this makes me, you know, I was being a little baby back bitch about a lot of shit that like for my personality. Like my other thing is I've always been pretty good at telling people like to fuck off. If you don't like me, that's more your problem than it could ever be mine. Yeah. But then I moved here and just already overwhelmed. I was 1,000 miles away from home. Yeah. And I was like, oh, my mom, these people are kind of mean to me. Like it's just like,
it's like that new kid at the school syndrome.
Yeah, it's exactly what it felt like. And it was like one of those things where I was like, and especially like a girl, like I was like, should I wear no makeup if I go on stage? Can I wear makeup if I go on stage? Am I gonna get taken seriously if I dress the way I want to? Should I dress down? Like it's just all of these things where it's like people are nicer to me if I look this way, and I like kind of like act like, you know, I shouldn't be here if I look like it was very like. Yeah. And it still kind of is sometimes, but I've kind of learned that I was like,
you learn like who it has like your best interests at heart. And you learn who are just like
I was letting it get in my head way too much when I first moved here. That you know, I was like freaking out about it. Like I would go and I would walk into like Creek and stuff, and I would just have like such an overwhelming anxiety because I was like, oh, like I'm gonna have to walk by people if I go on the patio. What if I don't see anybody? I know that's only like 2 people. I just like, you know, I let it get in my head way too much. And it was, the other thing was like shocking for me, like trying to process that, because I've never had that personality. Like I've never, like maybe when I was like 11 and had acting and like tried out for cheer, like, but like never as an adult did I like walk in and I'm like, felt like middle school lunchroom. Like, so I still kind of regret that, because like I feel like I like now I don't like, I just walk in there, like I want, and like I feel like it affects like how I get booked and stuff like that, because like, you know, you just have to not really give too much of a fuck. Being around
makes a difference, and people like
being around,
you're like willing to like talk to people and be friendly. And I feel really lucky because I think, like you said, you just like kind of narrow down like through experience, learning like who is here to try to help you and who is here to be like catty or whatever else. And I feel really lucky that I was in line at Roscoe's for that mic, and I was in line with our friends Brent and Zach, the comics from Alabama, but they had just moved here that week also, so they were not new to comedy but new there. And they were so nice to me, like me talking about how I just started, like they were really cool about it. And like I think I just like did okay enough at the mic that they weren't like, she's a total fuckhead, I guess. And they like, you know, we all like exchanged like Instagrams or whatever, and then we would like hit me up and we would like go to mics like together that whole like week, because they were new, I was new, and we kind of like banded together for like a couple weeks. And because they at least understood how things worked in mic scenes and comedy and stuff like that, even though it was a new scene. So they like taught me a lot when I first started, and were just like so nice about bringing me around. And I think they were also like, they didn't have that air of like, oh, this new person in our scene, because they were new too, but they weren't new to comedy. So that was like so helpful to me. And it was just like an example of like people who are just like, they're out here to just be like, yeah, I'm just doing my thing, and it's not interrupting me if you're doing your thing. And I feel so lucky that I met.
There's also a strong correlation between the people who are really kind and like, hey, if you need questions about how this works, or like if you need like, if you want to like, I'll be here this day if you want to join. There's a strong correlation to those people and how often they are booked, how often they're traveling, how often,
Mhm.
they're posting, podcast stuff, how often, their success is, like precedes them. Like versus, these people who are a little gatekeepy, a little hateful, like they, are a little like, well, like they're insecure in themselves,
Yeah.
like they're insecure in their ability. And it's just such a strong correlation
Yeah.
that it almost feels like I'm trying to think of like the movie where it's like if like this like these zombies in the airport and it's like they didn't eat, like
Yeah.
they just like turn into like these like awful,
I know what
like
you're talking about,
little
but I can't.
demon
Yeah.
things. That's what it seems. It's like where like you don't realize if you're helping other people do well, you're succeeding well, like as
Yeah.
well, versus like you want to like just try to gatekeep something that isn't yours.
Yeah.
Because all those people that are also successful are working with other people
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, my thing is like if you're kind to me, I want to see you win. Like
Yeah.
I don't care. And if like people will be like, oh, but they're not that funny, then that will be their own problem. It's like
Well,
why do I need to put them down? Like, that's I don't need to worry about it.
the other thing with that is you see somebody that like they're very passionate about how stand-up works, they're very passionate about it. Maybe they're not that funny on stage, or maybe they don't have a great delivery. You bring them around shows, they're gonna
They
be
can
like, I
learn.
love how this production element works.
Yeah.
I love how, the setup of this works. I
Yeah.
love how the marketing of this works.
Right.
Because they love stand-up. So
Yeah.
it's like by gatekeeping them from it generally, because you think that, they'll be bigger than you as a stand-up, you're in the same sense preventing somebody from finding a different passion in the same boat.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that thought they wanted to be something, they were trying so hard at this one thing, and then by fluke they found something in the same arena
Yeah.
that they were passionate about, and it was like a light switch.
Yeah.
And it maybe wasn't what they wanted,
Yeah.
but it was what was meant for them.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Because the
similar.
opportunity was there.
That was similar to even what happened with me. Like, obviously, I've had to pivot from it now, but that's like kind of the realization I had with I was running, my fitness business for so long, and I enjoyed it. Like, I liked coaching. I always talk about that. My clients, I really enjoyed the client relation side of it, but I just like wasn't that passionate about having to like constantly be talking about like macros and workouts and stuff like that. Like, I enjoyed that, but I realized I enjoyed that for like myself and having to be about that, like with that being my constant focus. But I was like, oh, by getting into that, I realized what I really liked doing was like making all the content, like writing copy, which sounds funny because I'm still talking about it, but I liked like that creative side of it. I liked like figuring out the like Instagram campaigns and like figuring out, what I was launching and doing like calendars for like social media launch. Like I liked doing that stuff. And so it was like that kind of that same thing. It was a light bulb where I was getting burnt out from this. And I was like, oh, like I feel like a failure because I just wasn't meant for this thing that I've just spent the last half a decade of my life doing. And then it was just like, oh, that also though showed me that I like this part. And so then I just pivoted into just doing that.
Yeah.
Like, and that was fine. Like I could still be in that realm. I was writing for just other fitness coaches. I was doing the same thing, but then I took away this part that maybe wasn't meant for me long term.
Yeah.
Like it's like, that same concept. I think that's such a good way to look at it is like, if you're passionate in that particular realm, even if that thing doesn't work out, you might still be supposed to be there.
Yeah.
It's just in a different way.
And see, I'm a really animated person. So it's one of those for me, I've always been really quick to, if something like sparks my interest, I'm like very quick to say yes.
Oh, same.
But I've always had this thing where I'm like, I'm very, I'm passionate about it, about something. I like, don't like just quitting to quit.
Yeah.
So I'm really not quick enough to say no.
Yeah.
Like I'm not knowing when to just say like, that's enough has not my jam.
Yeah.
Not my jam.
I always say I have passion ADD, but I have to like literally burn myself to the ground with that passion before
and that's what makes dating hard too.
Yeah.
Like where it's like
perfect transition.
Like it just like comes full circle. It's like things you're passionate about, like interpersonal relationships, business relations, like your personal relationship with what you do.
Yeah.
It like controls your life. You're like a more passionate person.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So over that time you've been here, besides the first 6 months when you got into something, you've been doing stand up and been trying to just navigate these fuck boys of Austin. That's been the synopsis.
Navigate. I'm putting that shit in park. I'm putting that shit in park.
Clear stop. Did we do another fiscal deletion?
I deleted Hinge today.
Yeah.
But I didn't delete my account. I just deleted the app because I'm gonna be on a show in a couple months. That's like all around Hinge.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I can like say
yeah
because you just got the dates on it. But
hell yeah, that sounds fun though.
It's Galen Nash's thing, so it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah.
his little mind. But
That's fun.
so I'm gonna keep the likes going because it's not like I'm getting a boyfriend.
Right.
Tell you how much right now.
Is Hinge where you've spent most of your time?
Hinge is
Trying
where
to
I'm banned on Tinder
Why?
because I called someone's mom fat, and
But why? They started it.
they started it. They
Yeah.
started it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a little angel all the time. They liked me, and then I have one picture where I'm not wearing makeup, and then the others I am. And he was like, he has like a picture of his mom on his thing, and he goes, "I'll just never understand why girls wear so much makeup when they look so pretty without it." And all I said was, "Well, you could ask your fat fucking mom." And he reported my account.
What a little bitch.
If you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen.
That's crazy.
So I'm banned on Tinder. So Hinge, I haven't been banned from yet.
Did you ever do Bumble?
I've never done Bumble because
I don't want to ask first. I don't want to do that.
I'm a woman. I'm a lady.
I love feminism, but I also
draw the line.
I like a little bit of 1950s.
You want me to fucking I don't even think you're like no. Here's the thing about Bumble is I'm not messaging you first because I had to convince myself to even swipe at all because I don't, and it's not like I'm super particular about what someone looks like physically. I don't trust me. I don't care that much, but you don't know what someone's like when you just see their thing. So it's like sometimes when you're like swiping through, like you don't know which one they are. And you know they're ugly. You know they're the ugly one if every single picture is a group photo. Do
you want to know something that fucked me up just this week? I meant to tell you about it, about Hinge. And I don't know if this is true, but I know I have been told that the way the dating apps run for men and women is different. That they literally, like systematically, they run them differently because they know that there's a pickier need by women. They know that there's a different ratio, and so that's why some dating apps men pay and women don't. I've heard most men pay for dating apps and we don't
because they get some dog face broads.
Yeah, so the guy I'm seeing told me this week that I don't know if this is true, but he'd be researching a lot of stuff, so I kind of believe it. That Hinge intentionally basically filters your people that show up to you and vice versa by how it views you as attractive, because it's trying to if you think about an algorithm standpoint of how social media or anything works, their goal is to keep you on the app. So if you were always seeing people that you felt like were either too out of your league and not getting swiped on, or too ugly and not getting matches, that you would leave the app, and that ruined every bit of self-esteem I've ever had because every I get is ugly.
Did you verify yours?
I don't know. I don't know if mine's verified or not.
I verify mine because I'd be face apping.
Yeah. What does that mean? Does it change it for you?
I don't know. They make you do raw stuff, which I don't think I face app that bad. I've seen, I've scrolled on some of my guy friends' Hinges just when we exchanged just to see.
Yeah.
And look what theirs is like, and they pay for theirs. I do know.
Yeah, that. So I said a lot of guys have to pay.
And then I'll scroll through and Jesus Christ, girl, there's no. You look like a painting of yourself.
Oil on canvas.
There's no way in your head you're I bet
this is just like me. Yeah.
I bet they don't know. There's no fucking
So what does the verified thing do for that?
Hold on, final download it.
All right.
But I don't it's essentially saying that you are who you say you are.
Okay.
But I know this one girl told me she tried to verify herself on Tinder and they banned her.
Because
people are gonna try to say, haters are gonna say that's why I got banned. It's because I called someone's mom bad.
She ain't banned on Hinge, guys.
Not on Hinge.
That though fucked me up though, because I was I literally constantly complain how people always talk about getting on Hinge to help with their self-esteem or validation, and I'm it does the opposite for me, because I go through my likes and I'm the fact that these men think they have a chance with me insults me, and then I find out that they're maybe sending them to me because they think we're in the same category. I was appalled.
Oh no, it's just I gotta verify my email.
Okay.
Never mind.
I was appalled though.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I choose to not hear that.
But the thing is, I think that I need to give more ugly men a chance.
Here's the thing. Men, you need, if you don't have any female friends, find some. And when you get some, let them help you. Men just cannot take pictures of themselves, of their, if their guy friends do it, they're all bad. Then that's
All
part of the problem. Most men are better looking in
And then
person.
we have to do the whole like, you got to see him in person. He's better. It's just a bad
awful.
picture, and we're mean it.
We mean it.
Sometimes.
But it sounds sometimes. But we sound like we don't. And that's part of the problem is like, I'm looking at this shit and I think about that all the time too. Like, I think that's the hard thing about dating apps too, is like, you can't get that energy thing. And that's part of just like, I know our world is just switching that way, but it sucks. But I think about that all the time. And I mean, maybe this would have saved my life, but like my ex of 5 years, I've said this multiple times. If I would have seen that motherfucker on a dating app, no way in hell I would have swiped right on him. But like the way he was able to approach me and like just like the energy and charisma and like, again, looking better in person than in photo. But even then it's just like, I have a picture of us the night we met, and I think about if that picture of him was on a dating app, and I was like, I would have threw up in my mouth.
That might have been the biggest. That should have been the biggest red flag in the last little thing I was in. He looked good as hell in his photos too. I always had a good photo to show people of him, and it's also one of those things. Did he have a hoop piercing and tattoos? Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, he did.
My ex had two hoops in his ear.
But at the end of the day, if he didn't have both of those things, just redheaded guy.
I have to ask myself all the time, was he cute or was he just covered in tattoos?
Now this guy's cute, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm also stupid.
I have that similar type, so I
didn't start having that type until I like moved to Austin.
Well, yeah, that's what they all look like here.
Yeah. Yeah, I always
it's like conditioning you.
Yeah, I like vanilla-y looking,
Yeah, your ex like looks like he like runs a bank.
Oh, he like it's just like he sweats and it just smells like vanilla extract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like he's been investing in crypto for years.
Oh yeah, he has.
Yeah,
he has. Good on him. I hope he didn't take a hit, but no, very like I know, chatty looking guys. And then I moved here, and it was like. But here's the thing, and I'll say this again, and I'll say it before, I'll say it again. It's like these dudes are like tatted up, like hoop earring, like long hair, like they get this rap for like having like you're gonna have like the best sex you ever had, like all this stuff because like there's like connotations of vanilla.
It's been true.
Here's the thing though, these vanilla guys sometimes
they be loving you though.
They fold me like an omelet too, like they like. Sometimes the vanilla guys it's because they read.
They've read, bro.
They research things.
They're watching porn not for enjoyment, but to study.
They say, Siri, how many nerve endings are there in the clitoris? And then they like write it down.
And how do you find it?
It's on a note card.
Yeah.
Stacked away. Yeah, if he owns a pit bull, skedaddle. I'm trying to own a fucking, what are those ugly, like furry things? Dogs.
The ugly furry.
Golden doodle.
Oh, golden doodles.
And they're so inbred, they like,
yeah, they're dumb.
And they're aggressive.
They're like the orange cab dogs.
They say that they're like being, which I'm a French bulldog, but they say that the golden doodles are being so overbred that they're like almost as dangerous as like fucking like pit bulls now, because they're like fucked up.
They're like dog downs.
Yeah, like doggy downs. That'd be a sick metal band name. Doggy downs. Fuck.
That's fucked up. What's the worst Hinge date you've been on here? Do you have anything that like crazy happened?
Yeah, I have a few, but my thing is I don't feel comfortable around men ever.
Yeah.
A majority of the Hinge dates I have been on, I have escaped. I've either done like I've had to text Candace, who moved to LA, to come get me, or I Ubered away and I have to get to the bathroom. Or I was just like, hey, I don't feel good.
You literally had to like Irish goodbye your date.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Or I'll do it to where like I find out like my friends are either like at a bar after a mic, so I'll be like, hey, I'm gonna go there, and then I just kind of ice them out, which is not nice. That's not nice.
What has happened to make you like? What's kind of something that's happened that's made you feel like you had to leave that way instead of just being like, all right, it's over.
Sometimes it's just they're just a big old lame-o. Like they're just a big old lame-o. And then sometimes it's like they're just genuinely uncomfortable around. I went on a date with a guy maybe like a month or so ago, and he I like get to the date and he's immediately weird. And he never asked for my number. We set up the date on Hinge.
Yeah.
And only texted through Hinge. So I get to the date and like he starts asking me like weird questions, like kind of political, but then like kind of eugenicsy sounding that I was just like, but not enough for me. I don't want to be like sound like a fucking liberal, you know. So I wasn't like that's a fucking weird thing to say to me. Like I'm offended. Like, but I was just uncomfortable. And then he goes, "Are you on birth control?" And I was like, "My favorite color is blue. Thank you for asking." And then it was just weird. And then at the time
like he asked that just on the day before they were doing the premise of fucking.
Yeah, we were just like we just sat down and we just well, are you? We was essentially talking about people date to get like the best outcome of their genes.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
okay,
sure, like you're
just one of those. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. And then like brought up the way my body looks. Like twice. Cool. Asked me if I was a natural redhead 4 times. Cool. And I was like, no, like what? And then it was just really weird. And then that's when he was like, "Are you on birth control?" And I was like, that's not, I literally said, "My favorite color is blue." And he was just like, "Well, if you're on any sort of birth control and you're sexually active with people you aren't dating, that must mean like you clearly have those same values of like you're not gonna risk having a baby with someone that you genetically wouldn't align with." And I was like, "I don't think that's it. I think I'm just looking for someone that holds my hand in public."
Yeah.
I'm looking for somebody that, you know, doesn't have to do coke around me. You know?
Yeah. What an ask.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, you know, yes for the world. And they just keep sending you.
One thing about me and Quinn is we'd be attracted to men who love coke.
I'd never seen cocaine until I moved to Austin in person. Like I would see it at parties, but just like people having coke the way they would a vape.
Yeah, it started for me in Nashville, but people definitely have it more on hand here.
When people had it in Knoxville or like college, they'd always do this thing where they were like really discreet about it, but in a way they wanted people to know they had coke. But it's like you would be at the frat house and you would go into one dude's room and he'd have like a dime bag and then like everyone would do a key bump like hidden under his bunk bed like type thing. Like sometimes people wouldn't care, but a lot of times that's how it was. But then in Austin, like no one gives a shit. And like I never met anybody that like it's so casual.
Yeah.
That it's like I already have the zoomies like all of the time. So but it's like one of those like I never was around dudes that like I didn't realize they were doing it the entire day.
Yeah.
Like until like it'd be one of those things where like, "Oh, I can definitely drive." And I'm like, "Definitely had a lot to drink." They're like, "Been doing coke." And I was like, "Wait." And it's like that's the worst part for me because like I said earlier,
you're starting to notice like I remember like I was on
the jaw
thing. Yeah, the jaw thing. Being like you're peeing a lot for a man, like things like that. That was it. We were at brunch with it was like my girlfriend and the ex I had that had a problem, and he was literally like sitting with us. And he was like sitting on the end of the booth, and we were at we were probably there for like 2 hours. We were all having mimosas and shit. And that man went to the bathroom, I think, every 10 minutes. And I was like, we had all been drinking the night before and stuff, and he was doing blow the night before.
Oh, but they're not peeing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I was like, there's no way this man has to pee this much. Like, because I have an uncontrollable bladder. Like, I pee more than a pregnant lady. And this guy was getting up every 10 minutes, and I was just, I never said anything later that night. He's like, "I have to confess, I've been doing blow since brunch." And I was like, "No shit."
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I didn't think you just had suddenly developed a bladder infection overnight.
Yeah,
it's wild.
I wish I kind of had dated bad boys and stuff like when I was in high school and college because like now I'm fucking 26 years old and I don't see those signs. Yeah, because I was raised in Mayberry, small ass town. Yeah, and like then my longest term relationship was a guy that like would like do weed and then cleanse for like a month in case something happened. Like just very clean cut all the time. So moving to Austin and trying to date in Austin, like not seeing like these signs of somebody, like luckily I have like, you know, I have Megan and like Candace who like, Megan's like older than me and like she's been in Austin, Houston and like cities like that. So she's like, "Girl, are you fucking kidding me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah. No." And then so for me there was like I just never knew the signs. I didn't know looking at someone's eyes, and I just didn't grow up around it, and I wasn't in my early 20s or late teens dating anybody who was doing it. So it was like the worst part is I am an animated person. I am always hyper. I
Oh,
don't do
yeah,
coke.
yeah.
I like drink, but I can't smoke weed. I get scared.
We have the same thing as me, so it's like it traps you because like I always used to be like, I just want someone to have that same like chaotic talkative energy as me, and like your golden retriever and all these things. And I'm like, I'll meet a guy and be like, oh my god, this guy was just like blabbing my ear off, and we were going back and forth, blah blah. And
It's
just
they
like
want to go into
I
they want
was
to go
like,
to the next
they're
place.
just like me, and then they're like, no, they're on drugs. And
They're
you're
on
like
cocaine, and they're like,
oh,
it was. I think this is the worst one was this
so
last one. Oh,
yeah.
the worst one was the last one. But it was like to me, I was just like, it was great because like for me, it's like there's this like you go on dates and like so I hate dating in Austin is because you'll go on a date and like they'll text their text communication is great and you're going back and forth like really good banter and you meet them in person and it's just like you're talking to a giant granola bar and it's like one of those things and then I feel insecure about myself because I went on this date a couple weeks ago on 5 Hinge dates in 1 week, but
she was on one.
I went on a date and they were like dates. Like we went I gotta be careful if I go running at Lady Bird or like Town Lake. Cause I'll be haunting a couple dudes like a ghost on accident. Cause like that's where all these dudes want to go. They're just doing a walk on Lady Bird. It's so nice this week. No, I don't.
Buy me
But
a fucking coffee.
I only have so many. I've never been to Barton Springs left in me.
Yeah.
So so I went, but this dude, like the text conversations were great, and then meeting him in person, I was just like so bored. And then he goes, and I was just trying to keep conversation going because I was like, I don't want to be bored. Like I'm on this date, might as well like try to make it fun, and maybe he's just nervous.
Yeah.
And it was just so boring. He just goes, well, how many Red Bulls did you have before this? And I was like, what a dick thing to say.
Yeah.
And then I was just like insecure about like because I didn't even feel I was being on one or anything or like being too hyper. I was just like being, like trying to keep conversation going or like make jokes. And he like wasn't witty in person.
Yeah.
Like he was on text. And like at all. So I was just like, okay.
I've had to learn that like fine line between because I am someone who likes a little bit of like playful banter and like roasting and stuff. But I've learned that a lot of times what I've excused as that because I like that is just guys being fucking mean. Like I had a dude do that. The guy I was seeing this winter, you all know, little buddy. And I've told his full synopsis here. But one of the things that happened the first night we ever hung out, it was like it reminded me of that is like we were just like on my couch talking till like 5 a.m. before we ever did anything. Like we met up at a bar at like 11 or something when he got off work, and then we were there till like 1 or 2, came back to my place and just sat on my couch and talked till 4 or 5 a.m. And I thought it was like great, right? And then he kisses me and I was like, sweet. And then he says to me, which like it was playful, but I realized now, like in hindsight, with like his personality and the way things unfold, he literally was like, well, I figured kissing you was probably the only way to get you to shut up. And I was like, okay. And then it was just like constant. And then I had the guy I was seeing right before now. One time I had like this really bad, I get like, on par with this week, I get like monthly really bad migraines. And I had one really bad when we were hanging out. And I was talking about, he's like, oh, I can tell that you're not feeling well because you're like a lot quieter or whatever, which is fine. And I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah, this happens to me like once a month. And he was like, oh, that's it. Like, that's the only time that I'm gonna get a break. And I was just like, fuck you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm learning now that it's like, I really wanted like that like playful banter, and sometimes I'm like, this is just guys using this as like an excuse to just be an asshole.
Oh yeah.
And I'm done with that.
Yeah, that's why it's like sometimes I could never really be a roast comic. It's like sometimes like people say a roast and it's funny and silly, and then sometimes people say a roast and like you meant that shit.
Yeah.
You meant that. Like but I
feel like you would slay a roast comedy though. I stand by that.
I think I do like in my head, like it's like a fucking Southern church lady where it's like you're in church and they're like that woman says the most monstrosity like of a thing about somebody. Once my grandma was talking about this girl and she said she's just kind of ugly, you don't grow out of.
That is the kind of shit that just comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, but then if you say bless her heart after, then it's like not a roast or it's just who cares. But I think that's the thing with dating too is like I like a guy that has like a banter, like a quick wit, and it's like you can poke at each other, but like playfully, like versus with dudes like versus like dudes are just like so like boring. They're just boring. And I don't like mean to like be a bitch, but it's like holy fuck.
It's like all those things. Actually, I talked about this with somebody on here recently, and I've just been having this conversation with like my roommate and stuff like that. Like she was saying that she had this talk in therapy, where it was just like they ask you if you had a good time on your date, and when you're like, yeah, I had a good time, and you're like, we laughed a lot and all this stuff, and then you recount all these things, and then the therapist, somebody told me this on TikTok, was like, can you tell me something they said that was funny? And you like can't think of it, and then you realize that the whole time you were like, oh, it was fun and laughing because I was there. Which sounds like a narcissistic thing to say, but it's like, if you're one of those people, like, I feel like both of us are pretty good at being like, we're gonna make the fun out of any situation we go to. Like, not saying like, oh, we're the party that comes in, but it's like, I'm like going to have a good time when I go somewhere. Like, I can carry a conversation. I have a lot of things to talk about. I can bring up different subjects. I can talk to anyone. And so I was like, I've had all these things in my life that was like put into this different perspective of being like, did I have a connection with this person, or am I just good at connecting with people?
Yeah.
And that like blew my mind to think about that. But I realized how difficult that is. I had a fucking guy just like, I don't think I've talked about this on here, that is similar, and he's still sweet. He still tries to Snapchat me once a month and shoots a shot. And he was a nice boy. But he fucking, same thing. We met on like Hinge or something, and we messaged back and forth for like, I think only like 3 or 4 days, but it was like nonstop all day. And the banter was amazing. Like we were like talking back and forth. It was so witty. He was like being sexy without being like creepy. Like he's a firefighter, and he was cute, and he was like messaging me like sexy, like firefighting references, like talking about like putting his ladder up to my window, like carrying me out, like shit, like, you know what I mean? Like it was hot firefighter to speak without being like over
He
the
just
top.
like wanted you to know that he knows fire protocol.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And it was like, but it was like good, and we were like joking back and forth the whole time, making references. And then I was like, he asked me to see me pretty soon early, and I was like, yeah, and I was like really excited. Like I was like, this could be my husband. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh my god,
right now,
pick the wedding colors, as you say. And I was like, what do I do? And so I like went on this date with this man. He could not make a conversation to save his fucking life. He was so nervous, and like I was trying to like be respectful because I think he was like nervous. He like told me he was like nervous to be around me, and I'm like, that's fine. It is a first date. I was trying not to be an asshole, but it's like it was like pulling teeth to get him talking. Then he was just like painfully polite, which sounds nice, but it's like,
no, I know exactly what you mean.
He was like, he would say like, he said like fuck or shit and or something like that, and then he's like sorry, pardon my language, and I was like. And he was just the epitome of like a Texas Southern boy. And like, I get it, but I was just like, this is not for me. It
gives me a little bit of an ick.
I couldn't do it.
Because it's not authentic. I know it's not authentic.
Especially because I'm like, you were just texting me a totally different way. Like, and now I'm in person, and you couldn't do this. And like, this man went from being like, he's gonna like fuck me through a ladder in my window to being like
a ladder.
I was into it. And he says to me, the compliment I get in person is that I'm hotter than a Texas July.
No. That's not authentic.
No
one really talks like that.
No.
And then when the other thing when dudes like, I don't know, seem like when girls are like, oh, I hate when a guy is polite, and like do like little incels will always be like, oh, so you can't be nice to girls?
Yeah,
nice to
you can be nice,
but like when the dude's like inauthentically himself, or he like cusses and he's like, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm like,
you cuss.
Obviously.
And the other thing is, I love to authentically be me.
Same, because then I start being like, oh, now are you looking down on me because I'm a lady? That's like,
yeah, because like here's the thing is, I'm gonna cuss like a sailor.
Same.
I sound like a 12-year-old boy most of the time.
Same.
And like I don't want to put like this weird thing up for me where you think I'm something that I'm not.
Yeah.
Because you're being something like that's not. It's just not authentic. And like that's so often how like first dates are here, where like people are just like not them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like every date I've been on where it's like it's easy to be myself and they're being themselves. Like it always ends like where like one of the two, I guess, is more infatuated with the other one. But it's so crazy. The thing was like, did you have fun? I think one of the first red flags of like one of the few like real like dates I've been on that ended in like another date was, I remember we were hanging out, and it was like maybe like the third time we hung out, and it was like every time I hung out with like them, it was like so much fun, and like it was one of those, I was like laughing the whole time. And then like he made this comment where he was like, I mean, you know, it's different for us because we're fun people, we have fun like this with everybody. And I was like, oh, I don't. Oh, that's embarrassing.
I had somebody do
that's
that to
embarrassing. Well, I'll have fun. Like I'll make it a fun time.
Yeah.
But I don't have fun. Like I don't leave the date being like,
Same.
this is very like, like comfortable for me. Like I'm having a lot of fun, but it's like, oh, we're just fun people. We have fun. Like very emphasize, like we have fun like this with anybody. You know, it's like, oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for fucking you.
I had that same dude that I was seeing over the winter do that with me. Like I was talking about being like, I just feel like we like, you know, have all this like easy, like, you know, conversation, whatever. And he's like, well, I'm just good at talking to anyone. And like was kind of doing that to me. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, well, I also can talk to anyone, but I was like, I thought we were, you know, like, I thought it was like a connection.
I journaled with my therapist today or yesterday. I can't remember. Everything blurs. It had to be yesterday because I just got off work and then I got ready for this. And wrote down kind of like all the things where like I'm kind of a fucking dumbass. Where it's like
I've been there.
He said that, and then it was like one of those things where God, there's just so many things. I'm like, how you're just stupid. Like, where it'd be like one of the things is like I think he picked me up for like the first date, and then came over to my house just to hang out. One other time, and every other time it was like me going to see him, or like me like going out of my way for him, or like me like making all of this effort for him. And then I was like, fuck, like you know, that's so. And like every time I saw him, he was always intoxicated. Like I don't think I've ever been around him sober. I've been sober, he usually isn't. And then it's like I always like, it's one of those things where it's like I've like talked to you when it was happening, where it was like I would try to make a plan with him. Like I'd be like, oh hey, like this is going on Friday. He always had something going on, which is like fair. Like I don't know. I really don't know his life. Like, I really don't. But it was like if I try to make a plan, it was like, and then he was like, oh, anytime we hang out, it's because I asked. And I was like, this is the only time I hear from you.
Yeah.
So imagine that. And like I was just making myself so available. It's so embarrassing. But it was like things like that where he like never, looking back, ever said anything about being interested in me.
Yeah.
I like look at it and never blatantly said anything about being interested in me.
Which is why when you meet men who do that, it's like weird because it's like so unusual for guys to do that.
Yeah. Where they're like, I do want to see you, or I do care about you, or like,
and you're like,
because like in your head you're like, oh well, they're just not, they don't want to like rush into anything. But it's like me being like, oh, like I have a really fun time when I'm with you, like things that would initiate them, like saying like, oh, you like I feel the same way, like that never happened. Those conversations never happened. That like I romanticized it so heavily.
That's like my toxic trait.
That it was just like, I don't know. And it was just so, like, when we were together, it was just so much fun. But I think about like how often our communication was just me, like, you know, like trying to like hold it up when I could have just taken a hint. Yeah. But it was like, you could also just left me alone, you know, type thing. But I don't know why I'm quick, because one, I was also celibate for 6 months. Because like just situations like that where it's like things like that are giving me anxiety, like a lot of anxiety. So it's like I'm very cautious like with it. That I don't know. I was just like, I will ignore these red flags because I'm just like, oh well, like because sometimes I feel like I'm starting from scratch. Like I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to be in a real relationship, start a real relationship as a grown ass woman.
No, that's what
I don't know outside of being a 19-year-old who I was 19, like 5 years at 19, like longest relationship. And then other than like 6-month relationship that I will loosely ever say was a relationship or a boyfriend. I've not been in a relationship as a grown ass woman outside of who I met at 19. Yeah. So for me, it's like, I just don't, it's not like I know these are red flags, but I don't know, they're easy to ignore when you like don't want to like think you're rushing something, or you don't want to seem like a nuisance, or you don't want to seem like this, or like, oh, you tell like, oh, if they didn't want to talk to me, like they want it. Well, they're not. Yeah. It's because you texted them and like, and it's like, and I was doing that, and then I drunk texted him after not hearing from him for 2 weeks, which is so already embarrassing. But it was like in my head, I was like, oh, I don't know, I just like romanticize the situation so much that we ended up hanging out like the next day, and it was just like not the same, you know, because like I like brought up like, because I like kind of apologized, because one text was crazy and the other ones I kind of apologized for being crazy, but like, and you just wanted to say like I could have worded it better, but like meant it, you know. Didn't respond to either of them at all. And told me that, and he was like, oh, I just like wanted to, you know, I didn't want to just like respond nothing, like I wanted to like say something meaningful. You just did not care.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know,
Dude,
just say that.
little buddy did that same thing to me. I like
Just
sent
say
him
that.
this like huge fucking message after he had basically ignored me for like weeks after all this huge shit. And I like sent this big thing like expressing my feelings and my thoughts about the situation and being like to just be like ghosted like this, like after like, you know, X amount of months, it's like really fucked up and like blah blah blah. And then like got no response from that. And then a week later, I finally get a text back and it's like, sorry, I really wanted to take the time to like process this message and respond properly. But the whole text was about how he needed to take time, he wanted to take time to process the message, but then he still never like addressed anything in the message. And I'm like, no, you didn't
care.
No, it's just an excuse. Yeah, it's like,
and you could have just ignored that message too.
Yeah,
and like
you still said nothing about
so because it's like one of those like but I am glad like it's embarrassing that I did it because I like sent a drug test, I folded and I went over there, like drove to them, which is so fucking dumb. But I'm glad I did it in the sense that it was like it did not feel the same. And it's like half the reason I enjoyed being like around this person is because like it was like a comfort thing. Like they were comfortable to be around. I don't like, and they were fun to be around. And it was like natural feeling, which I don't really find that often. So I think I like romanticized because of that. But I think like after it was like one of those things like I like felt like this feeling over me, like after like, oh yeah, I just like wanted to say something meaningful. I just didn't know what to say. Like, you know, like I was just like, and then I was just so big. You just didn't care. And it was like this like thing that's like came over me. There's like any intimacy like just wasn't the same. It was just like I'd be fine if I didn't do this again. Like it just kind of felt like any other situation. It felt like the reason I was celibate for so long, it felt like any other situation in Austin, which is like exactly what I needed it to be. Yeah. Because now I'm like people have not heard since. So.
People have such like mixed feelings about stuff like that. But that's why like I had no judgment for you because I just think everyone's different in what they need to like process or get over something. And like I'm much like that too. I really struggle when I don't have closure in a situation. Yeah. But for me, sometimes me closure is just like having that epiphany. It's not always like expecting someone else to give you closure is toxic. It's not gonna happen. Yeah. But like for me, I'm famous for having friends want to stone me, as you say, for like me wanting to meet up.
Stone me in the street like a biblical whore.
Literally, because I will give that man the 8,000th chance. Like, but it's like I sometimes have to go to that place where it's just like this is the last straw and like see it for me to really walk away. Yeah. And like I've been in those scenarios a lot where it's just like you have that last thing and you're like, I'm gonna give them this one last chance but then you've already had X amount of data, like you said, you were ignored for 2 weeks or like whatever else that's already in your head and you're giving them this shot and in your brain, part of you is like, you're romanticizing being like, I'm going to show up and they're going to be like, so sorry. And like have all these reasons and then like blah, blah, blah. But then you get there and you already have all this expectation set, but you also know how they've been treating you. And then that thing that you romanticize doesn't happen. And something just like will click where you're just like, this is never going to be that.
I think the positive thing is I drove over there knowing because I was like the traffic was kind of bad and I drove over there and I remember like I said to myself it doesn't really matter because this is the last time we were doing this and I knew I meant it. I went over there with like no expectations honestly other than like stuff like I was like
just getting yours
just like going over there and then like that was it and then I was like this is like the last time I'm seeing this person. Like I knew when I was going there was like no expectations but I think it was like worse than I thought it was going to be because like for me when I really like care, I care so much. Like I'm a very like passionate person. I'm very interested in who I'm interested in. Like very like not one track minded, but very you know, like if I'm into somebody, like I'm not really gonna pay too much attention to somebody else. And then like once I don't care anymore, I'm never going to care again. It's like this weird like almost like what's the movie with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet? The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like once that turns off for me, like I just have like this like ick where it's like I don't like hate the person or anything. It's just like I just will never care the way I did. Yeah. Like I never feel that way. Yeah. And then like I feel like when I left, I was so like high, like strong, like jitter, not high strong like in a rude way, but just like I just felt like I could have ran like a 5K. But not in a fun way. Yeah. But in a way that like my body doesn't feel good. Yeah. Like
I am envious of that. I feel like my best friend has that where it's just like she will like die for you, but the minute that switch flips for her when she's like done, she's just like done. Yeah. And I have like the toxic other problem. Like have you seen that TikTok that's like going around with that lady's like the girl's mom is like old as fuck and it's like her ex from like 50 years ago wrote her a letter?
No.
and apologize. It's like going viral. Oh my God. I was like, wrote her this apology letter, and she's like 70. And she gets this letter from like her, like somebody probably think of somebody we're dating right now. And they're like, and you're like 70 and you get this letter. And I was like, my ass would be 70 and like calling them. Like I didn't like that's my like I would be like, it's never too late.
Not me.
Assuming I'm not in a happy marriage.
I could be more obsessed with somebody than like anything else in this world. But it's like, I feel like it's like one of those things with like 3 chances with me. You have like one chance, like to like, I don't know, like a big miscommunication. You have like one chance to like, you know, like hurt my feelings, and like you like the last chance is like if you embarrass me, like if you made me feel like embarrassed for caring or like being the person I am, done. And it's like there's such like a statute of limitations with me that it's just like I can't undo it. Like but it's one of those things like it won't like it just doesn't feel the same. Like it's just not fun. Like it's one of those things like I just don't see that person the same. Like it's like tainted.
Yeah.
And it's like once it's like tainted for me, it's like I know you have the ability to like make me feel like you don't give a fuck. Yeah. Because you probably don't. So like why would I think you do now? Like so I don't know. I'm really good at being like if this person has that ability to do that, they always will. Yeah. So it's like once I don't care anymore, like I'm not gonna let someone like fucking embarrass me again. Yeah. And like I don't even like consider myself a particularly prideful person, but I'm very like I'm very like passionate. I'm very like dedicated. Like I'm very like jump into something and I'm about something. Because it's so rare that I like really just like find this, especially romantically, I guess that like I just admire somebody. Like I'm really like have a lot of admiration for that. That's very rare. That if like you make me feel embarrassed about it instead of communicating like, hey, like I think that you might be more interested in me than I am you, or like, you know, we're adults. Like you just be like, hey, I'm not looking for anything for sure right now. Like, feel like maybe you are, like maybe I've given you the wrong impression. I've had that conversation. Right. Like I've been like, cause I've fallen in that real like, hey, like I just want to let you know, like we could like take this slow if you're okay with doing that, but your heart seems pretty set on a particular thing. I'm not there right now. Yeah. And like sometimes like, you know, they're cool about it, and other times they're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna find someone else, and like totally respect that. Yeah. Versus like, I don't know, like making someone like embarrassed about it is like yuck. So I'm getting better at it. It definitely was worse than it used to be. I still struggle with like I'm not somebody who's good at like I can't shut up a contact. If I like it's really hard for me to block someone. And if I do that's really the only way though, because for me it's like even if I'm not gonna give them another chance, like I'm just like I'm gonna respond. Hey, like, I just said my statute of limitations means that I won't ever give you a chance, but you're gonna see my Instagram story. That's what I mean. You're gonna see it. I'm not that bad person. People are always like, why don't you like remove them as a follower or block them on Instagram? I'm like, I could never. I need you to see how I'm doing. Because they're gonna know. They're gonna know. Yeah. Like I'll never lose that. I feel like that's just where I'm at. I'm not gonna entertain them. They don't have another chance with me. Yeah. But they're gonna know. They're gonna know I exist. Someone hit me with something once that did affect me, and they were like, what makes you feel like they even deserve to see that you're doing good? And I was like, they don't. I'm just petty. I'm a Leo. I'm not even a Leo, and I still feel that deeply. But I'm right there next to you as a Virgo. So yeah, I'm a Virgo rising. We're calculated. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's the other like hard part of it, just like dating in Austin, dating. I feel like dating in your late or like mid to late 20s too, is that like people make you feel so scared. Yeah. And then like now I've gotten to the point where like I have friends that are single in their 30s that are like, chill out. Like chill out. Cause like some people dating at 26, like some people are like freaking out because they're not 21 anymore. Yeah. So they're like fucking sleeping around. They don't want to be monogamous with anybody. They like don't want to like let go of the fact that like they're not 21 anymore. And then some people are 26 and they're like, I'm not married, I have a baby, I don't like, and I'm like, holy shit, you don't have a credit score. Yeah. You don't have a pot to piss in. Yeah. Like, what are you like what are you talking about? Like, so I value getting to know myself as I have in like the last year way more, but it's like people make you freaked out that wherever you're at, you're not in the right place. Yeah. It's like, and then like meeting people who are, you know, timelines are shit, man. When people like knowing that people are like, hey, like just fucking drop the ideology in your 20s.
Yeah.
Like just live in the moment.
Well, I think like something you were talking about, I relate to a lot is like, I think I try to think of myself in my age. Like, okay, I know I'm 32 logically, right? I know I just turned 32, but like my dating age is not 32. Like I related a lot when you were talking about like, oh, I haven't had this like adult relationship yet and things like that. And that's something that's coming up for me now. And a lot of like fears I'm having trying to like date healthily is like realizing that my own, like I had a boyfriend until I had a 2-year boyfriend in high school until I was 17. We broke up, and then I had a lot of experience. I've been in a lot of little flings. I've had, sex. I've had some situationships before they were called that, but no one even took me
back in my day.
Back in my day, they were just called nothing. But they were called fucking.
Yeah.
You were just being fucked. But they like no one took me on a date from 17 to 25. Like I didn't go on a single date. And so the guy I met when I was 25, 6 months into being in Nashville, was my first adult boyfriend and the first guy that ever even took me on a date.
Yeah.
And I dated him until I was 30 years old. So 25 to 30, my only dating experience is this one person. That's the only thing that I've experienced as far as dates. And it was dysfunctional as fuck, like the whole thing. And so all of my dating experience that I've had is in the last 2 years. And even with that, a lot more dysfunction. Up until this year, I've had a few more like, positive experiences or people taking me on like normal dates and stuff. But that's like, to me, I'm like, okay, I'm 32, but like, I'm 2 years old of dating. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, that's basically like being like 19, like as far as like where that goes. And I'm struggling with like not having like those fears because when people are doing like things the right way, I have no data to show me that this is going to like be a good thing. Sure. So like all of my data is just like, if someone was like treating me well, it was either going to flip a very horrid switch, or it was ingenuine, or it was with some kind of like ill intention, or was just like, short-lived. Right. Like I haven't had like good data of like something going well and being healthy. Like obviously everyone has relationships that don't work out, but it's like, like you being able to look at your long-term relationship and be like, not a bad person, just not right for me.
It was not right.
Like things like that. It's like anything I've been involved with longer term was like fucking catastrophic. Right. So it's like, and very dysfunctional. And so like I said, up until this year, I've had a couple people that I've went on dates with and things like that, or been involved with that have been like a little more normal paced and things like that. And it's been very difficult for me to be able to figure out how to even navigate that healthily, because I'm like, I don't have anywhere to put that in my brain. Yeah. And so I think it's like so rude to yourself to try to put yourself in a box of like, oh, I'm this age, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Cause it's like, what are your individual experiences? Like we make this kind of analogy all the time with like, me and my roommate both she does it still. I used to be like a fitness coach or whatever. And it's like, you all can't take the same cookie cutter diet plan and make it work, because your body is different. You have a different experience. You're a different age. You have a different lifestyle. You've had different past diets. Like all those things affect how you should be taking care of yourself. It's exactly the same with dating. Like all of those things shape it. So it's just like, people meet the love of their life at 40. Like, it happens.
Like,
I
think it's one of those things too, that it's like very strange for me because, date like that relationship where it kind of started crumbling once like just big kid decisions started being made, because we had a super healthy relationship. It was like sunshine and rainbows all the time, but we also had no fucking responsibilities really. He was trying to get in med school. It was like, for the most part, it was like once it was getting brought up, like I remember things like very started like going like belly up a little bit, because the conversation of like his roommate at the time was moving out, and I still lived with my parents at the time. I didn't pay like I was like, he was like
stress free.
He was like, the subject of us now moving in together got brought up, and I freaked out. Like I freaked out because it's like, I've only known this person, like I've known this person since I was 19, but this is the only thing I've ever known. Like just started freaking out. And then of course we were 24, he was like 25, so like, are we getting married started coming up way more, and it was like, then and it was one of those things, getting married came up all the time, and then it never did. And it was like a little bit after the conversation of us moving in together where I was like, oh, well, I want to save up a little bit longer, like live with my parents. Like I haven't graduated yet, because I graduated way behind, but it was like one of those things where it was like, as soon as that conversation happened, it was like this like immediate switch where it's like engagements and like getting married, the subject of marriage. We would go to our friends' weddings, but us getting married just stopped. Like that conversation stopped. And but so now it's like, it's kind of weird because like I've never lived with a romantic partner
Yeah.
ever. And I sometimes like that, like I feel stunted in a lot of ways. That, and the other thing is like my only long-term term relationship wasn't incredibly healthy up until like the very end.
Yeah.
It was just, I only know like, you know, very like a very selfless person, a very kind person, you know, a very dedicated person, you know, somebody that was very patient with like mental issues that I have, you know, to go from that to like that not working, it like you have like this weird thing that I work with in therapy that it's like maybe I just don't deserve that ever again.
Yeah.
So it's like, but that's not obviously true.
Right.
But it's an excuse, like I think like Austin like is just a terrible city for dating. Like it's everybody that's like just gone through a breakup who aren't healed. People are like, they call it like a Neverland because like no one wants to grow up.
Or all the people who like are the other toxic end that they think that they're super healed and then they're like trying to tell you how to heal yourself. Like that whole segment of the fucking Austin, all the people here that are that way.
I'm just so healed that like it's hard for me to like open up to a relationship because that means I have to share like the work I've done on myself, which sacrifices that, because I don't know where you're at with healing.
I don't want to take that burden.
But if you want to fuck after yoga,
let's go hit a nice bath.
You can do it in my vein.
Here's a crystal.
Yeah, shove this rose quartz up your pussy. Maybe that'll heal it.
No, I
terrible.
I love that. That was a lot of good shit there. I think we've been a little over an hour, so I'm gonna wrap up with my last question. I always ask every guest I have, and I don't give notice for very often, so I apologize. But share with us. Let me see. Actually, I don't think anyone asked us anything because I always post it really late because I suck. But when Grace is on here, she's like, nobody wants to know anything about us because we tell them everything, and I think that's true.
I've got all my everything that just happened to me on my Snapchat story immediately.
Our pal Riley wants to know who would have the bigger dong, you or Quinn.
I got big ass hands.
I got big feet. I think Quinn and I would both be packing, to be honest.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
The sheep factory.
At the end of the day. I think we'd be the 2-man, 1-female threesome of your dreams.
Oh yeah. So I think I'd be packing.
I do too.
I don't know why I think
that. No, I think we have BD.
I think it's like, I don't know. When dudes have my stature, they usually at least pack an 8.
Packing an 8.
Packing an 8.
I just got some like wildly large feet for a woman, so I think I'd be good.
What shoe size do you wear?
I wear like 9s, sometimes 9.5s.
Look how big my hands are.
Wow. Yeah. I think Quinn and I would rock your world.
I got some like WNBA paws on me.
Riley, if you were gay and we had dicks, we would
It'd be
over for your asshole.
Over to you.
But that wasn't my actual question. We did get one, at least cool. Oh no, not the cat.
Yeah.
Last question is just to share, you know, we talked a lot about, I think, some pretty positive, well, I wouldn't say positive, but helpful dating advice or stories, which covers the responsibly side. So I like to go into something unhinged that's happened to you. So usually like I have somebody share story of like one of the most unhinged thing they've done in the realm of like sex and or dating. So it can be a story just about an unhinged experience you've had. It can be something unhinged you've done in terms of like getting a man's attention or like embarrassing things. You know, I always give this example every week, but like I have told people about like I spent like $400 once on hockey tickets just to try to run into the man that I was in a situationship with.
All the way to Colorado. For a man similar to like the situation I was just in, that one again never said really anything about liking me. He just read books, and I was like, oh my god.
The guy who's in the hockey game with read books.
Oh my god. He like read books and like man, he like read books and like knew stuff about poetry and had a man bun. And generally was pretty obvious about like not being romantically interested in me. And I just moved to Austin, and I was like, what if I like came visit you in Colorado? And then he was like, you should, like, for sure. And I was like, what? But here's the thing also, he wouldn't say what we were. We never had the conversation. We never talked about it. And that drove me nuts. And then I would always post like stuff from Hinge, like prompts other people posted or like responded to me. Which granted, he probably the entire time was like, this bitch like isn't even interested.
Instagram baiting, yeah.
But I also flew all the way to Colorado to see him. So But the entire time I was there, I get there, I missed my original flight, but luckily, like I had enough points that I could just like rebook it. But I showed up like technically the day after. I took a bus to Breckenridge. Like I like literally like plunged trains on.
He didn't come get you.
No, he was all the way from Denver. He like worked or whatever. It was so embarrassing. There's like so many excuses. But anyway, I get there. He comes and picks me up from like the bus stop. Radically hungover. He like went out the night before, like because I was like I had to like stay the night in Dallas's airport.
The night
like,
you were supposed to be getting there. Yeah.
And he gets like tore up from the floor up, and then just radically hungover when I get there that he just sleeps.
After you've taken planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, and just sleeps on the couch. And I immediately am like texting Candace, and I'm like, I've made a grave error.
This is a mistake.
I made a grave mistake in judgment. Which, if I ever message you, I'm like, wow, I really like this guy. Like, we have great conversation. Like, everything. You need to just immediately say, like, hey, just follow me with a shot caller and be like, hey, let's immediately do check-ins. Let's put post-it notes of the things he said tonight that were hints, but he just didn't tell you because that ass is fat.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what it boils down to. Is with an ass like this, how are you gonna say that you don't date me? You know? But I stay there, and then like the entire time, like like we go out, and it's like he was kind of just mean to me. Like the entire time, like I was like so embarrassed. Like the entire time, like the feeling of being embarrassed for being there did not leave the realm of my body. That I was like, oh my God, like, am I really autistic to not take a hint this hard?
Yeah.
And it was like, then I was like, only supposed to stay a few more days, and then he was like, you should stay one more day. Because I had enough points still that I could like have extended my stay. And he worked that day technically. And so he was like had this whole thing. He was like, no, just stay one more day. Like, I want to like do more stuff with you. And it's the other thing is, the biggest thing is like he wouldn't take like a picture with me.
Yeah, red flag.
And it's like if I took a picture of him and posted on something, would not reshare it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, fuck, dude, this is so embarrassing. So embarrassing. I was definitely very infatuated with him, and that is a little bit on me. But again, I'm pretty obvious when I'm infatuated with somebody because it's not common.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like you should be like, hey, I think guys that like the idea of somebody like me being infatuated.
Oh yeah.
And not to sound cocky or whatever, but I think guys like the idea of like the girl that's a little bit over the top, the girl that's like, always the social butter, like that they're infatuated with her.
Yeah.
Like there's something where like guys like that I like them, but they're not gonna tell me that they don't like me like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the entire time we're there, he's like kind of mean to me, like doesn't want to take a picture with me. Like the entire time, it's like he does because like what, like it's so awkward if he doesn't, like that, like if he's like no, like that'd be so weird.
Yeah.
So embarrassing. The entire time is so embarrassing that I'm just like, I'm gonna buy a gun. And I remember like I like asked him, and I was like, I remember because I was like supposed to say that the next day, but I was like, but I had to be at the bus stop at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And I like was not sleeping, and then like started packing my stuff, and I was like, I'm just gonna go. Like, you can just drop me off at the bus station in a couple hours. And he was like, no, like you already like booked your flight to stay, like blah blah. And I was like, I don't know what we're fucking doing here.
Yeah.
All right. Like, and it's still not once during that conversation did he say he liked me.
Did you guys talk again after that?
We Snapchatted like every once in a while, and then
that's all you had to say.
And then it was like a month or so that I was just like, this doesn't make me feel good. Like, this is not fun for me. I don't know what it is. Like, you're not clear. Like, it's one of those things that's like, obviously, like, his own is like, it's one of those things I never want to come across as like a jealous type thing because of other girls. But it's like, if other girls like post you on something, you always like share it, or like you'll like post in your own groups that you never post being with me.
Yeah.
Like, type thing that I was like, God damn, this is embarrassing. I think that's like they're just flying out for a man.
Yeah.
So embarrassing.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's one of those things where it's like, why would I ever make a man feel like a princess? That's never again.
This is a reminder I needed to hear.
So embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You think at the time you're like, wow, I'm gonna really stand out, and like, but when you get there, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Unless that man is like fucking
At the airport with flowers.
Like fucking, just like, don't. Unless like he's at the airport with flowers. He's like told you how excited he is to see you. He like wants you to be there. Unless he paid for the ticket there. Unless you don't know, unless the entire time you're like, his face is a seat the entire time, and like he keeps like that man does not like you.
Yeah.
He doesn't like you.
Yeah.
He likes that you like him.
He likes that he has free flown in pussy.
Yeah, he likes that somebody is infatuated with him. His ego likes that someone's infatuated with him, but he does not like you. And of course he's like, of course he's not gonna tell you that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Oh, it's ridiculous.
And
I remember like all my friends were like, yeah, man, yeah, Chief, you. And I was like, I mean, worst case, we're just friends. And like, and they're like, hey, are you?
Are you? Yeah. Would you be friends with this person?
And there's like other stuff too, but I don't want to blast it.
Yeah.
But it was like the entire time it was like they're like, if y'all are just friends, if you go there in the second you feel like y'all are just friends, don't do anything romantic the entire time.
Yeah.
I was like, that's crazy.
That's
I did not hear what you just said.
I didn't hear you.
Did you say
Suddenly I have a hearing problem.
I can't hear.
Oh my god. All right, Quinn, this was great. Thank you so much for joining me. I want you to share where the audience can find you. I'll link it in the show notes. But you guys can also find us in March in Las fucking Vegas. Quinn and I are going to the Real Coaches Summit. I know I have some of my old coaching pals that listen to this podcast. So if you want to get tickets to that, it's a big conference for fitness coaching, and they're doing some comedy entertainment, and it's us. So you should go. But we're gonna try to line some other shit up in Vegas too. That's my goal. So if you're in Las Vegas, fucking come through. But otherwise, we're both always around doing shows in Austin. You can find Quinn here, but how can they keep up with you? I am on Instagram at Quinn ATX, QUINNATX. I'm on Twitter as Bourdain Batty, as Anthony Bourdain Batty, and then TikTok I am C20C. C20C. I will link those for you guys in the show notes, and we'll see you next time.